This morning on BRN, how to care for dormant plants in the winter. Well, joining me now is Brooks Osmond. We affectionately refer to him as the garden guru. Brooks, so great to see you. Thanks for joining us on the program this morning.
No.
You're not staying warm. Okay.
No,
Well,
it's cold out.
I mean, here, I was telling you, in North Carolina today, it's about 18 degrees. I think it's probably single digits where you are.
It was minus 13 in York last night. York, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
That's quite cold. All right, you're the garden guru. You're the person I come to, and we come to understand what to deal with. How do we deal with our gardens, and our indoor plants in all situations? Let's talk about dormant plants. Let's talk about outdoor first, okay? First of all, what is a dormant plant? What does that mean? I think I know what it means, but what does it mean to you as a gardener, plant aficionado?
Well, let's take grass, for instance. Grass can go dormant. It does go dormant in the winter. So it changes its color a bit. It gets paler in color. It's zoysia grass can actually turn brown, but it comes back again in the spring. So it's a time for plants to sleep for a little while, like a bear would in hibernation.
Okay, so people probably go outside and if they can see the grass, because there may be snow. Snow has fallen here in the East Coast of the United States and in other parts of the country. In fact, it's actually fallen in the southern part of the United States, but we'll get to that, talk about that at another time. But they may not see the grass and they may not think anything of the grass being covered. Are there anything that you should do and can do to help your grass along during the winter? It's really hard. I watched the Ravens lose this past week to the Buffalo Bills. The ground looked really hard. But are there things you can do to kind of help the grass along for when spring comes around?
Well, let me put it to you this way. I had a baby tree, maybe a foot or two tall, from a seedling. It was an eastern white pine.
Mm-hmm.
And I planted it, and then we had the Snowmageddon back in 2010, where we had 4 feet of snow in 4 days. Well, my dummy self decided, oh, I better clear out the tree and give it, keep the snowpack from covering it. Well, that was a big mistake because the tree died because there was too much cold air that hit it, where the
Mm-hmm.
snow was actually a blanket protection. So in the wintertime for outside stuff, you don't want to do anything. You just want to let everything, Mother Nature, take its course, let all the bugs die underground, and let the plants and the grass just remain dormant and have that blanket protection.
And what about aeration? Or I guess it's probably too cold to be aerated, but do you do any aeration in terms of freeing up the, what you call it, but the roots and all that kind of stuff to ensure that things are ready to go for the spring, or is it too early for that?
It's not time. Yeah, you want to wait for the ground to be thawed. Also, aeration may want to be done with the ground after the snow is met, because in late February the ground can be really muddy.
Mm-hmm.
So aeration's not going to do anything if the ground is wet and soggy. You have to wait till a certain time period for the ground to be ready for sticking poles down and aerating.
Okay. Um, uh, Brooks, let's talk about indoor plants. Are there things that we should be doing? Maybe you brought some of the plants. I think last time we chatted with you, late fall, we had talked about bringing plants indoors if you want to do that. Are there things you need to be thinking about if some of those plants are quote unquote dormant? How do you treat them? I mean, do you still water them at the same rate? Do you give them plant food? Do you give them the sun? What do you need to do?
Well, I suppose it depends on the type of plant, but the ones that are more dormant, you water less. So
Mhm.
if you're trying to put them to sleep, if you will, for a couple of months during the real cold, wet times, they don't want to be disturbed. They don't want water. You want to put them in a cool, dry place. And that's sort of how you have to handle the dormant ones. Now, I have other plants that are by a southern window, and I'm giving them more water than I would in the summertime because the forced dry heat in the house and just the dryness of winter, 18% relative humidity, it's going to dry out plants. And so I group my plants together to try to retain moisture as part of a watering system.
So that's really interesting, and I think it's probably something that I know I probably didn't know. But you got to heat your house because you want to keep your little your feet and your hands and everything else warm. But how you heat your house and the amount of humidity you have in the house has a direct impact on the plants that you brought inside. So you could actually be doing more harm, not less harm, by bringing them in.
Yes, you just always have to be attuned to your plants. They're going to tell you if they're unhappy, and you just look for brown spots or yellowing. In fact, I had a marble pothos, one of my favorite plants, that was starting to turn yellow, and I'm like, am I doing something wrong with the watering? And because normally I'm pretty good with watering, I'm very experienced. But it turns out once I investigated further, I had mealybug infestation all throughout the inside of the pot. So I had to actually throw the whole thing away because mealybug's very, very invasive. So you have to isolate your plants that have insects and infestation.
And I mean that was something we had talked about in the fall. You want to make sure that what you bring in doesn't have those types of infestations. But if you do, is the only choice, Brooks, to throw out the plants and to get them separated from the indoors and the other plants if there's an infestation?
It just depends on how bad the infestation is. Like that marble pothos I was telling you about, there were hundreds and hundreds in there. I had to toss it. But then I had another plant, a bromeliad, and I saw mealybug on that. I was able to take rubbing alcohol, a diluted like 70% rubbing alcohol in water, and spray it, and then I wiped off the leaves. So some you can treat, and others you might just be best to throw out.
So Brooks, we're coming up to February 1st, which traditionally is considered to be Groundhog Day. I know you're a big almanac guy. Anything we should be thinking about as we start to hit the beginning of February and Groundhog Day?
Well, it appears the long-term temperatures are going to start to rebound. It looks like our coldest portion of our season will be completed soon. So we're all hoping for those nice 50s and 60s late winter temperatures and get back into those gardens soon enough.
Yeah, I'm right with you. Bring me the spring. I want to see the ground bloom again, the plants bloom, and I always look forward to the cherry blossoms blooming in our great city of Washington, D.C. Brooks, we're going to have to leave it there. Always great to see you, and look, we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Can't wait to come back again, Jeffrey. Thanks for having me on again.
And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Polls, for all the news in one place. Details, of course, at our website. And we're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.